Hi, I'm Tom and I'm one of the teachers at Cooper and Jordan School and I work in Year 3. And this month we've been using No Man's Sky to help us in our literacy classes. And I thought I'd just give you a little talk through, show you the video as well to explain what we've been up to. So first of all, we started off in the spaceship, in the bigger craft, walking towards our smaller ship. We stopped the video at this point to think of some synonyms for spaceship, thinking of shuttle and craft and things like that, so that the children's writing didn't become too repetitive as they carried on. We also started to think about how they would be feeling at this point. They're going off on their adventure. They're going to be leaving their families behind. How are they going to be feeling? What might they be thinking about? What worries might they have? Are they excited? Lots and lots of things like that. Then, after we'd taken off and we were flying through space, we paused the video again just to have a little talk about some of the planets. And we use this to link to our science work as well, finding out more about planets, asteroids, other celestial entities, and we began to think of some language that we could use to describe as we're flying through space and these things are hurtling past us, thinking how the children could expand their vocabulary and make it a little bit more interesting for the reader. Then we continued the piece, and when we got to the atmosphere and we were bursting through the atmosphere, we again stopped it there to think about our feelings. Now, up till this point, we've been discussing how it was all an unknown and you could see the outside of the planet and it was kind of in a haze. But then as you entered the atmosphere, it became clearer. And we started to think then very carefully about how you would actually feel. Now you can see the flora and the fauna and the terrain. How was that making you feel? Were you more excited? Were you more scared? Were you more nervous? So the children had a bit of time to think then about that. As the spacecraft touched down, again, we had a little time just to think. We had a little look around. We paused the video. What could we see just from our shuttle's window? Okay, was that going to change? Then we got out of the craft and we started to think about how we could use personification. We looked at the plant life that we could see around us and how the fumes danced from some of the larger flora that we could see. And then the children started to think about personification that they could use to describe the movement of everything that they could see, from the stars in the sky down to the animals that were running around in front of them. And then we stopped when we got to the bigger creatures as well to think about how we could describe them. We didn't want to keep it just mundane. We wanted to try and really bring them to life, because the children were set the task of writing a captain's log, and they had to explain it to their commanders, who was myself and my colleague in Year 3, and we told them that we weren't going to be looking at the video. We need to know exactly what those creatures look like, what the terrain looked like. So we really looked into adjectives and adverbs and similes to really bring those creatures to life. So we stopped at this point so that the children could begin to plan a few more of these. Then we started looking again, as mentioned, at adverbs and the movements of the creatures, because they weren't all the same. And we wanted to make a clear distinction between the different ones, sticking up some ideas on the board. And our children were using their English skills books as well to put down some ideas that they had. Following this, we had a look at the skyline and started to think about, now that they were on the planet, looking back at where they'd come from. How did that feel? What did that make them feel like? Were they homesick? Could they see any differences? Were they feeling different now? What did they think? And then finally, we stopped to think about how they were going to report back to us on the larger spacecraft. What were they going to be saying to us? How were they going to make it clear? What was the general feeling of the planet? We spoke a lot about the vibe that they were getting. Was it somewhere that we could go and build bases on, or was it somewhere we needed to stay away from? Was it quite chilled out? Were they constantly anxious while they were there? So the children had to really, really think about that. And then we jumped back in the spaceship, we blasted off, and we spoke about how we would end our captain's log to make sure that was done. The children then had two options. One of them was to complete the work in class, and another was to carry it out for homework. And we were really, really impressed by the quality of the work that the children produced. But the main thing for us was that the children absolutely loved doing it. And games like No Man's Sky give you such an opportunity to go around and explore and find out more, that they absolutely loved it. So if you ever get the chance, I strongly, strongly suggest using No Man's Sky in a lesson.